Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we got some work to do on the Tacoma. If you missed the last video, go check it out. I'll have it linked up in the corner. We got the intercooler mounted. We got room for the whole AC system, all the lines, and the radiator. Everything fitting behind a factory grill. Today what I want to get done is we have to get the whole AC system mounted. I don't have any of the brackets built yet, so we got to build all the brackets for that, all the brackets for the radiator, and get all that mounted, get the line situated, and get all that 100%. But there is one thing I want to do before we jump into that. Let's go over that real quick. So if you guys remember a couple videos ago when we were getting this motor and everything installed, I was kind of worried, not really worried about it, but trying to fix the angle that the motor's sitting back at. And I wasn't really able to because of the oil pan and differential clearance. But what I didn't realize is I climbed underneath the truck today, and there is so much room above this tranny. Hopefully you can see that. There's probably 2 inches above the tranny, from the tranny to the actual floor of the body. And I could jack this motor up probably 1.5 inches and still be just fine with no body lift or anything. I did look at what the clearance is on that truck. That tranny is in the stock location, and I can barely fit my finger. It's probably too dark to see, but it is tucked up here tight. I can barely fit my finger between the top of the tranny and the actual floor. So I know we can raise that tranny up quite a bit. So that's what we're gonna get started with today. See how flat we can get this motor, and hopefully everything else will clear. I have been kind of on the fence of doing a 1-inch body lift, just because we're gonna have so much more clearance everywhere. We'll have 1 inch more clearance between the tandem pump and those lines there. Just everywhere we're gonna have more clearance. So I'm going to jack this tranny up, see how high we can get it. If we still have some issues, I may just go through and do a 1-inch body lift, but we'll decide that later. So what we got to get done first before we can jack that thing up, I already kind of started trimming the floor here, but there's the thick, you can see the thick part right here. I was just using a pair of shears, and there's like a double layer right here. So I'm gonna get the cutoff wheel out or something, snip that, make some room, because I can't jack this up any higher. You can see that shift tower is hitting on the body. So let's cut this out, jack this tranny up, see how high we can get it. All right, that is cut. We got clearance there. Let's do a quick test, or let's just see what we're looking like for angle. I'm just trying to get it right on the edge of that head surface, and we're at about 11.5. So let's jack this tranny up and see what we can do. See if anything hits, and let's just see what happens. So that is touching. Let's drop it down about 1/2 inch. Right about there. Looking at the mount here, looks like that's about 1 inch higher than what it previously was. I don't know, this whole deal seems kind of weird how low this tranny was with the factory mount, factory cross member, everything is factory, and that tranny sitting that low. I'm not really sure why, but let's go see the angle, see if everything clears. It already looks a lot better, but well, that's clearing still. We got probably, I don't know, not much room, but it's clearing. The hose is there. Let's see, 8 degrees. That made a huge difference. So I think I like that. I think I like jacking that tranny up. I am curious though, if you guys have a first gen Tacoma with a 5-speed and 4-wheel drive, go look and see how much room you have above your tranny, from the tranny to the actual body. That seems really weird. It seems extremely low. I'm not sure why it would be that low from the factory, but either way, we can space that tranny mount up, I think probably about 1 inch, and we should have a lot better driveline angle. We should have better angle on the motor. Obviously going from 11.5 to 8 It's a big difference. And you can see it made a lot more room behind that tandem pump. You could easily change that now. All right, we got a 3/4 inch block underneath that tranny mount. We got all the weight off the jack, so everything is sitting like it would, and that's about right where I want it. It puts the motor at about 9 degrees. That motor is like 8.5, so very, very, very close to what that is. I'm extremely happy with that. We have clearance everywhere. It's really tight with that heater core line, but not a huge deal. It shouldn't interfere with anything. The only thing that's really going to be a pain is pulling the motor in and out. What I was having to do, even when it was lower, is pull this side bracket off, pull that mount off, and then rotate the whole motor enough to get this mount out, and then you can slide the whole motor over and up. So not a huge deal, but it is pretty tight. So I think for now I'm going to skip the body lift. I'm just not a huge fan of body lifts, so I'm going to actually use that aluminum block, that 3/4 inch block that's in there. I'm going to see if we can just trace this out right here on the factory mount. This is an extra one I have. We'll just trace this out, template it, and I don't know how the hole saws like aluminum, but we'll attempt it. We'll try to cut that center hole with a hole saw and see how it works. I've never tried a hole saw in aluminum, so we'll see how that works. There we go, that went pretty smooth. I feel like a machinist doing these sweet little billet parts. Not really billet, but let's go underneath, see if it works. Hopefully all the holes line up, and see what happens. There we go, guys, got that spacer in there, looking good, everything lined up really, really good, like it should. So motor sitting really good now. Very, very happy with that, looking a lot better. And this is also going to help that driveline angle from the transfer case down to that carrier bearing. So you can see I did put on that front half of the shaft, and before there was like no angle at all. And now I'll have to measure it. It looks, you know, about right. I think you want like 3 degrees on your U-joints just to keep them operating. So that looks pretty good, a lot better than it did before. All right, we got this radiator and condenser mounted up, just extremely, very temporary, just to see kind of how far back we need it. One issue I'm having is my mount is broken on the condenser, so I may have to go buy a new condenser. There's not really any other way to mount this top how I want it. You can see the rest of that just broke off. But either way, what I have here is the factory mount that originally bolted here and bolts to the radiator. You can see I got a 3/4 inch spacer back here and leaves plenty of room for the condenser, leaves room for the lines right here. There's that line and that line right there. One thing I will have to do is figure out how to route these lines around these couplers that are going to be 90 in through here. I might be able to run through the center of them and then drop them down. We'll figure that out once we get a hole cut in here and get these couplers on. But For right now, I think I need to run to the store and find some 3/4 inch spacers. I only have one of these, so we're gonna need some more. So I need to find spacers, and then I think I may run to Napa, see if they have a condenser for a decent price, just so I can get it mounted up like it should. Also, the other line right here, you can see screws right on, no problem right there. So everything's looking really good. That's only 3/4 inches back, so very happy. There's still plenty of room for radiator fans and all that good stuff up here. All right, I got this mount fixed up. The problem I was having, I wanted to buy a Denso condenser, but the Denso is the only brand, for some odd reason, the only brand that does not come with these mounts. You can see these bolt right through the condenser with these 3 bolts. I didn't want an aftermarket one, I want a Denso one, and they don't come with a mount. So I fixed that one with a little spacer and a nut inside, so that should work. That being said, I still am going to buy a OEM Denso condenser and this evaporator right here, just because might as well replace them while I have it apart. So I got to run to the store, like I said, grab some spacers, some bolts, and we can put this thing together. All right, we got some spacers, but these are 1/4 inch hole and not 5/16 or 8 mil. So we're gonna have to drill these out. Good thing they're aluminum, should drill pretty quick. So let's drill these out and then we'll throw them on, get that radiator bolted in, and we can start getting the lines ready. There we go, got it mounted up and everything is looking pretty good. I still need to build some brackets for the bottom of this condenser. Where it mounts factory, it kind of just clips over this little seam right here. So I think I might just make a little bracket from that bolt onto here just to hold it from flopping around. But other than that, we are looking pretty good. So in order to get these lines mapped out and where I need to go, I think what I need to do first is cut the hole in the core support for where my intercooler pipes are going to go through. That way I can get my couplers on, my 90s, get them through, and figure out where I'm gonna have room to run these lines. So that is my next step. I'm gonna pull all this off, intercooler, radiator, and condenser, pull it all off, and cut this hole in the core support. All right, we got the hole cut in the core support. Everything's looking pretty good. Plenty of clearance, and you can see there's still some room in between those for if I need to run some of those AC lines through there, or top or bottom. So what I want to do next is just pull this back off. I want to get the condenser bolted on and build those bottom mounts, get the thing solid, and then we'll start doing the lines. Alright guys, I'll show you what I have been doing. So I decided to drop the original mounts that were on here, and I just kind of made my own out of the original mounts, but I wanted to keep that rubber isolated mounts. So that's why I kind of took the factory mounts and modified them. So we got it hanging right now from the top. One thing I wanted to do was drop it down so this line is in the middle of this, because I was able to get, you can see, probably another ½ inch. I was able to bring this condenser forward about another ½ inch, so we shouldn't have to space the radiator as far back now. It just kind of makes everything a lot more clean having it tucked up. So bent this line up, you can see it runs between the two, and that shouldn't be a problem because when I come out with my intercooler pipe here, I'll just do a turn, and it should clear just fine. We'll go underneath down to the compressor. We do have to do something with the fittings for the Volkswagen to the Toyota lines, but that is sometime in the future. I just want to get these lines clearanced for the intercooler. So the other line's not a huge deal. I think what I'm going to start now is get the mounts built for the bottom of this condenser. I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to go about making those mounts, but we'll figure something out, and then we'll take that one line, the one that connects here, up to this port here. We got to route that line, bend it up, but that one should be super easy. This one was actually a little more tough to bend. I had to use some heat, but you got to be very careful you don't melt this rubber hose and screw up this crimp connection, because if you get this part too hot, you'll probably melt that rubber, and as soon as you pressurize it, it'll probably pop off. So I kind of held a rag around it. As soon as I was done bending it, I took some air and blew on it just to cool it off. So hopefully it didn't get really too hot, so it should be fine. So let's get going with some mounts for the bottom of this thing. All right, we got the condenser all mounted up. So what I ended up doing is this factory mount right here just clips over this factory seam. So what I did is I just bent up some steel to wrap around, bolted it here, and it is nice and sturdy, and it's all rubber mounted like factory. So I gotta pull these off, fully weld those. But other than that, we are good to go. Also, the radiator fits without any space at all. It's pretty close, but it is bolted on right now to the course port, and it clears the condenser. So that is freaking amazing. I don't have to space that out and have a big gap right here. So the last thing we need to figure out is this line right here. So I'm gonna get the intercooler back on and kind of map out where this is going to go and get it bent up enough to run all the way up to this port here. Well, I didn't like the look of these brackets, so I took them apart, bent them up a little more, and I kind of followed the body right here, so it's a little tucked up, looks a little better now. Let's jump over to these mounts. Let's go weld these fully in, and then we'll get the intercooler on and figure out this last line. There we go, guys. We freaking did it. Everything is mounted up, clearanced, and fitting really, really good. You can see I snuck this line in right past that boot. I am gonna do some little door trim edging stuff to cover this sharp edge, just so if anything starts rubbing on it, it's not cutting through couplers or anything. But that line looks good. Everything's clearing. You can see we got both AC lines kind of running down towards the pump area. I will have to figure something out for this line here right next to the turbo, maybe a little heat shield or something to cover that. But other than that, we are good to go. Everything's bolted up and mounted and clearanced, and I was able to keep the radiator in the stock location, so that is what excites me the most. All right, here's a better look at these AC lines. So I got those all bent up. I ended up putting a mount down here just to keep it nice and sturdy. And then this other mount is right up here. So nice and sturdy, out of the way, tucked up tight. One thing I'm gonna do before I call it a day is touch up this area. Just gonna grab some black paint. Not too worried about the color, but we're just gonna paint that real quick. And then I have some of this stuff right here. This is like door edge trim stuff. So we're gonna stick that around the lip just like this, just so if anything's rubbing on it, it's not gonna be sharp, it's nice and smooth. So let's get it touched up. We'll get this stuff on there and we can put it back together and be done. One thing I forgot I gotta do real quick is stiffen up this core support. Originally this had that bracket I took off that ran down right in the middle here. What I did was I bent that tab up. It's still got the threaded hole in it. So I'm just gonna take some of this 3/16 bar and run it down like that. I'll do a bend up there and a bend down here, and I'll just bolt it right down inside of here and bolt it right there, and that'll stiffen up this core support and latch. Well, there it is, guys. We're all back together. Grill is on. Everything is clearing. Everything looks amazing. I'm so freaking stoked that everything fits with the radiator in the stock location. That is one thing that I was worried about. I didn't want to space that radiator way back, so very happy. We got plenty of room, more than enough room in front of this motor. We got unlimited options for fans with how much room we got, so I'm not worried about that at all. My main concern was fitting this entire AC system and intercooler behind this grill, and we freaking did it. Well, that's a wrap for today, guys. I'm not really sure what we're gonna tackle next. I know I do have to run into Napa and try to find some radiator hoses and that one other heater core hose. So I need to tackle that. We got all the exhaust to build and we have all the intercooler piping to build as well. All that stuff is on its way. It's gonna be here soon. So we can start working on that as soon as it gets here. Oh, and I almost forgot. We gotta finish up the harness. Actually, that might be the next video. I might tackle the harness, get the whole harness installed in the truck and wired in, but we'll see what happens. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Go smash that thumbs up button, comment, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.